quick, honest question, before we even get into the list. When's the last time you got through an entire afternoon without your brain turning to fog somewhere around 3 p.m.? When's the last time you stood up from a chair and your knees didn't file a formal complaint? Or you looked in the mirror and your skin just looked tired for no particular reason? Here's the thing. Nobody tells you in a 10-minute doctor's appointment. None of that is automatically just getting older. A huge amount of it is your body running on empty for one very specific type of fat, omega-3. Get enough of it, and inflammation drops, memory sharpens, your heart keeps a steadier rhythm, and your joints stop creaking like an old porch door. Run short on it, which the average modern plate absolutely does, and your body starts quietly falling apart in a dozen small ways you've probably been blaming on stress, or aging, or just having an off week. Today, we're counting down 8 foods that solve this exact problem for people 3,000 years before anyone had ever heard the word supplement. Several of them are pulled directly from Scripture. All 8 still hold up under a microscope. Let's get into it. And quick disclaimer, this is general information, not medical advice. So run any real changes past your own doctor first. Number 1, fish. Let's start exactly where this whole list basically begins. The water. Peter, Andrew, James, and John weren't scholars or priests, they were fishermen. Hands cracked from ropes and nets. Before they were anything else, Jesus fed 5,000 people with 2 fish and a handful of bread. And after the resurrection, one of the most tender scenes in the entire New Testament happens on the shore of that same sea, with Jesus quietly grilling fish over a charcoal fire for a group of exhausted, hungry friends. Fish wasn't a special occasion food in that world. It was just Tuesday. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. Have you ever noticed that brain food almost always circles back to fish? There's a reason for that, and it's not folklore. Fish carries 2 compounds called EPA and DHA, a specific kind of omega-3 that your body can actually use right away. No conversion process required. DHA in particular isn't just floating around in your bloodstream doing nothing. It's physically built into the structure of your brain and the retina of your eye. Depending on which research you look at, DHA makes up somewhere between 90 and 97% of all the omega-3 fat sitting inside your brain tissue right now. Your brain, by weight, is close to 60% fat. So when people say you are what you eat when it comes to fish, they're being disturbingly literal. That's part of why regular fish consumption keeps showing up, study after study, tied to sharper memory and slower cognitive decline as people age. Omega-3s from fish also help lower triglycerides, the fat that circulates through your bloodstream, and they carry a mild natural blood thinning effect that supports healthy circulation. There's even research tying regular EPA and DHA intake to steadier mood and lower rates of depressive symptoms, which makes a strange kind of sense once you remember how much of your brain these fats are physically built from in the first place. For heart health specifically, eating fish 2 or 3 times a week is one of the single most consistently backed habits in all of nutrition science. Biblical connection or not, not every fish earns equal marks here though. Smaller fish, like sardines and the tilapia historically pulled from the Sea of Galilee, are excellent, low-risk choices. Bigger, longer-living predators like swordfish or king mackerel accumulate more mercury over their lifespan, so it's smarter to eat those sparingly, especially for older adults juggling other health conditions. And here's the part almost nobody wants to hear, because it sounds too easy. Canned fish counts. Canned sardines and canned salmon hold on to nearly the same omega-3 levels as the fresh versions. They last practically forever in your cupboard, and if you eat the soft bones in canned salmon, along with the flesh, you're getting a genuinely solid dose of calcium too. If cooking a fresh fillet feels intimidating or expensive, a couple of cans in the pantry gets you most of the win for a fraction of the effort. Number 2. Lamb fat. Ready for the one that tends to make people a little nervous the second they hear it? Lamb fat. Stick with me here, because the Bible is oddly specific about this. In Leviticus, when instructions are laid out for sacrificial offerings, the fat portions of the animal are repeatedly set apart as the piece given to God, described as a food offering of a pleasing aroma, not the meat, the fat. Many of the sheep raised across the ancient Near East were fat-tailed breeds, specifically prized for a large deposit of fat stored at the base of the tail, considered a genuine delicacy and a mark of a well-raised, healthy flock. Quick, honest question. Would you ever trim the fat off your dinner and toss it straight in the trash without a second thought? Because that's basically the opposite of how this culture treated fat. To them, scraping it away would have looked almost wasteful, maybe even a little disrespectful. Now, the nutrition side of this one needs a straight answer, not a sales pitch. Fat from sheep and lamb is mostly saturated fat, which puts it in a different category from the plant and fish fats we've already covered. In moderate amounts, as part of a diet otherwise built around vegetables, fiber, and unsaturated fat, lamb fat brings fat-soluble vitamins, particularly A and E, along with a modest amount of the same conjugated fatty acids found in other grass-fed ruminant animals, compounds some research links to mild anti-inflammatory effects. But here's the honest caveat. Eaten in large, regular quantities, saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol for a lot of people and is linked to higher long-term heart disease risk. So this one earns its spot on the list, with a condition attached. Ancient households understood something. Modern nutrition science eventually caught back up to balance. Fat wasn't eaten carelessly or constantly back then. It showed up at feasts, at sacrifices, at moments that actually mattered. The practical version of that today looks like this. Trim visible fat before cooking. Reach for leaner cuts like leg of lamb over the fattier options, and roast or grill instead of frying. So some of that extra fat renders away during cooking instead of sitting on your plate. None of this means lamb needs to vanish from your life. It just means treating the fat the way the ancient world did, with intention, not by the pound, every single day. Number 3. Walnuts. Let's swing from the pasture into the orchard for this next one. Song of Solomon contains a beautiful line about going down into a garden of nuts to look at the fruit of the valley. And a lot of Bible scholars believe that's a direct reference to a walnut garden, since walnut trees were deliberately cultivated across the hill country of ancient Israel, prized enough that people planted and tended them, rather than just gathering whatever grew wild. Here's a fun bit of trivia to test on someone at dinner. Crack a walnut in half and look at it. It genuinely resembles a small brain, right down to the 2 lobes and the wrinkled folds. Ancient folk wisdom actually leaned on that resemblance as a sign walnuts were good for the head, and it turns out, almost by accident, they were onto something real. Of every tree nut people eat today, walnuts carry the highest amount of a plant-based omega-3 called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. Your body converts a portion of that ALA into the same beneficial compounds found in fatty fish, though the conversion rate is modest, which is exactly why fish still earns its own separate spot on this list. Still, if you don't eat much seafood, walnuts are one of the best plant-based ways to move the needle on omega-3 intake. Here's the part that might actually surprise you. Walnuts were one of the very first whole foods in American history to earn an official FDA heart health claim. All the way back in 2004, the research trail that led there started with a Loma Linda University study in the early 90s that found walnuts could lower LDL, the bad cholesterol, by as much as 16%. That's not a rounding error. That's a number a pharmaceutical company would be thrilled to put on a bottle. Beyond cholesterol, walnuts are loaded with polyphenol antioxidants, and a growing stack of research ties regular walnut eating to better markers of blood vessel function and, yes, better cognitive performance in older adults, which brings that brain-shaped folk wisdom full circle, in a way that's honestly a little eerie. One long-running Harvard study that tracked tens of thousands of older adults over 2 decades found that people who ate walnuts more often and in larger amounts tended to live measurably longer than those who skipped them entirely. That's not proof that walnuts alone add years to your life, but it's a striking pattern to see show up around a food this simple and this cheap. Because walnuts are calorie-dense, a small handful, roughly a quarter cup, gets you the benefit without blowing through your daily calories. Beyond the standard tree nut allergy caution that applies to every nut on this list, walnuts come with essentially no other downsides, except that fresh walnuts go rancid faster than most nuts because of that high fat content, so buy smaller amounts more often and keep them in the fridge or freezer if you can. You'll know if they've turned. Rancid walnuts taste distinctly bitter compared to their normal mild, slightly sweet flavor. Number 4. Goat's milk. Here's a question. When you picture a land flowing with milk and honey, what actually comes to mind? Proverbs 27 has this wonderfully practical, almost grandmotherly piece of advice. Know well the condition of your flocks, because there will be goat's milk enough for food, for the food of your household. Goats were often easier to keep than cattle across the rocky and hilly terrain of ancient Israel. They could graze on rough vegetation that would have starved a cow, which made goat's milk one of the most dependable everyday sources of dairy fat and protein in ordinary homes, not just wealthy ones. Here's something that might reframe how you picture the whole story. Goats were among the very first animals humans ever domesticated, going back roughly 9,000 to 10,000 years. In that same general stretch of hill country where these Bible passages take place, when Proverbs talks about knowing your flocks well, it's describing a relationship between people and goats that was already thousands of years old by the time it was written down. Nutritionally, goat's milk has a genuinely different fat structure than cow's milk. It carries a higher share of medium-chain fatty acids, which your body can break down and use for quick energy far more easily than the longer-chain fats, dominant in most cow's milk. That's a big part of why people who find cow's milk heavy or hard on the stomach often tolerate goat's milk noticeably better. Even though it isn't actually lactose-free, the fat globules themselves are also smaller, which helps with digestion, and goat's milk brings a solid amount of calcium and phosphorus for bone strength, plus riboflavin, a B vitamin your body needs for everyday energy production. Some people who've struggled with regular dairy for years describe goat's milk as the first version that didn't leave them feeling bloated or sluggish afterward, which lines up neatly with exactly what that medium-chain fat structure would predict. Be honest with yourself for a second. Have you actually tried goat's milk, or does the idea alone put you off? A lot of people assume it, sight unseen, and never give it a real shot. It does carry a stronger, more distinct flavor than cow's milk, which can catch first-timers off guard, but it tends to go over much better served cold, poured over cereal, or stirred into coffee, and it works fine as a swap in most recipes without much noticeable difference in the final result. It's still a source of saturated fat, so the same moderation principle applies here as with other dairy fats on this list. For anyone who's struggled with regular milk, though, it's genuinely worth trying, and goat cheese, made from the same milk, is now sitting in most grocery store dairy aisles, if you'd rather ease in that way. Number 5. Flax seed. Quick pop quiz before we move to the next one. What do priestly robes, a spy story involving a rooftop, and one of the most powerful Omega-3 sources on the planet all have in common? Answer: flax. This plant is basically woven into the Bible, not metaphorically, literally. It was grown across the ancient Near East, primarily for its fiber, which was spun into linen, the fabric behind priestly garments and fine clothing throughout Scripture. In the book of Joshua, Rahab actually hides the Israelite spies under stalks of flax drying on her rooftop, a detail that tends to get skipped over in Sunday school. What gets even less attention is that the same plant producing all that prized fiber also produces a small, nutrient-dense seed that ancient households pressed for oil and stirred into bread and porridge. Here's the number that should stop you in your tracks. Flax seed holds the title for richest plant source of omega-3 fat found anywhere in the modern food supply, ahead of even walnuts. A single tablespoon of ground flax seed can contain more alpha-linolenic acid than most people would get from an entire day of eating other plant foods. Combined, that's not a small edge. That's flax lapping the field. But the omega-3 content isn't even the wildest part. Flaxseed is also the richest known source of compounds called lignans, and depending on the specific comparison, flax can contain up to 800 times more lignans than most other foods. 800 times. Lignans carry mild hormone balancing properties, and some research connects them to a reduced risk of certain hormone-related cancers, alongside a real, noticeable improvement in digestive regularity, thanks to flax's high fiber content. If you or someone in your life deals with regular constipation, a spoonful of ground flax stirred into oatmeal or yogurt can make a genuinely obvious difference within days. 2 practical notes before you run out and buy a bag. First, whole flax seeds mostly pass straight through your digestive system undigested, so grinding them fresh or buying them pre-ground is the only way to actually absorb what's inside. Second, flax seed oil specifically should live in your refrigerator and get used within a couple of months, since the same fats that make it valuable also make it prone to turning rancid fast once it's exposed to heat and light. Start with a small amount if your gut isn't used to extra fiber. Going from 0 to a heaping spoonful overnight can cause some temporary bloating and build up gradually over a couple of weeks instead. Number 6. Butter and ghee. Here's a food that shows up in basically every major hospitality scene in the Old Testament. Butter. The phrase "a land flowing with milk and honey" runs through the Old Testament again and again as shorthand for abundance and blessing, and dairy fat specifically shows up as an act of genuine welcome. In Genesis, Abraham serves curds and milk to 3 visitors who arrive at his tent. In Judges, Jael offers the fleeing General Sisera a bowl of curdled milk, an early form of butter, right before the story takes its dramatic turn. Whatever else was going on in these scenes, dairy fat was a real, deliberate gesture of generosity. Butter and its clarified cousin ghee, which is just butter with the milk solids removed, are both concentrated sources of saturated fat, similar in that respect to the lamb fat we covered earlier. But they also carry fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K, 2 specifically nutrients your body can only absorb properly when they're eaten alongside actual fat, which butter conveniently provides on its own. Ghee, in particular, contains a compound called butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that research has linked to a healthier gut lining and reduced intestinal inflammation, which matters more than it sounds, since a healthy gut lining plays a role in everything from nutrient absorption to how calmly your immune system responds to everyday triggers. It's not unique to the biblical world. Either cultures like the Ayurvedic tradition in India have used ghee as a therapeutic food for thousands of years, completely independent of the Near Eastern story we're following here. which says something about how many different civilizations landed on the same conclusion. Ghee also has a practical edge over regular butter. Removing the milk solids strips out most of the lactose and casein, making it easier to tolerate for people with mild dairy sensitivities. And it has a much higher smoke point, meaning it holds up better under heat without breaking down into less healthy compounds, the way regular butter can. Here's the honest note. Same as with lamb fat, butter and ghee are calorie-dense and high in saturated fat. So for anyone managing cholesterol, this is a use thoughtfully ingredient, not a build your whole diet around it ingredient. A little butter on warm bread, in that same spirit of ancient hospitality, is a genuine, simple pleasure that fits comfortably into an otherwise healthy pattern of eating. If you can find grass-fed butter, it tends to carry a slightly better fat profile, with a bit more of those beneficial conjugated fatty acids we mentioned with lamb. Not a requirement, just a nice upgrade if it's available where you shop. And because ghee has no milk solids left to scorch, it's especially good for pan-frying vegetables or eggs, giving you that rich, buttery flavor without the risk of it burning in a hot pan, the way regular butter sometimes does. Number 7. Pistachios. There's a chapter in Genesis you might not expect to show up on a nutrition list. The famine story, where Jacob sends his sons to Egypt with a bundle of gifts meant to impress a powerful stranger. Tucked into that bundle, most translations mention a small amount of nuts, and a lot of scholars translate that specific word as pistachios, a tree that's grown across the hills of the Middle East, since long before anyone was writing any of this down. Considered valuable enough to send as a diplomatic gift to a foreign ruler during a famine, says quite a bit about how highly people regarded them. Here's a fun detail. In Iran, one of the regions where pistachios have grown the longest, they're sometimes nicknamed the laughing nut because of the way a ripe shell splits open into a little grin, worth knowing next time you're cracking one open and want to sound unreasonably cultured at a dinner party. Nutritionally, pistachios stand apart from most other nuts on this list in one specific way. They carry a healthy mix of monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fat, along with notably more protein and fiber per serving than most other nuts, which makes them genuinely good at keeping you full and steady between meals. But here's the fact that tends to surprise people the most. Pistachios are the only tree nut widely recognized as a complete protein, meaning they contain all 9 essential amino acids your body can't produce on its own, at a level roughly 81% as effective as casein, the gold standard reference protein found in milk. For a snack you eat by the handful in front of the TV, that's an unreasonably good resume. They're also one of the better plant sources of potassium, a mineral directly involved in maintaining healthy blood pressure, and they're rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, the same antioxidants, more commonly associated with leafy greens which accumulate in the retina of your eye, and, according to research, may help protect vision and reduce the risk of age-related macular degeneration over time. Not bad for something most people think of as a movie night snack. Because pistachios usually come in the shell, there's a built-in portion control benefit nobody talks about enough. Cracking each one by hand naturally slows down how fast you eat them, which quietly works in your favor compared to nuts that come pre-shelled in a bag you can mindlessly plow through. As with every tree nut on this list, anyone with a nut allergy needs to steer clear entirely. For everyone else, go with unsalted or lightly salted varieties for everyday eating, since the heavily salted bar snack versions can add up fast. If you're watching your sodium, roasted pistachios hold on to most of their healthy fat and antioxidants, so there's no real need to insist on raw. Number 8. Pomegranate seeds. We're saving one of the most visually stunning foods on this entire list for last, because honestly, Nothing else on here gets described quite like this in Scripture. Few fruits show up as often or as beautifully throughout the Bible as the pomegranate. In Exodus, God gives Moses extraordinarily specific instructions for the robe worn by the high priest, and pomegranates embroidered in blue, purple, and scarlet thread are woven directly into the hem, alternating with small golden bells. Pomegranates decorated the tops of the massive bronze pillars at the entrance to Solomon's temple. They show up repeatedly in Song of Solomon as a symbol of beauty and abundance, and Deuteronomy names them specifically among the prized crops of the Promised Land itself. This fruit has been cultivated for something like 5,000 years, which means every one of those scenes was already describing an ancient, well-loved food, even by biblical standards. Historians trace its cultivation back to ancient Persia and the surrounding region, and from there it spread along early trade routes into Egypt, Greece, and eventually across the whole Mediterranean, centuries before it ever came close to a modern grocery store shelf. Here's a question for you. If a nutrient existed today with the exact profile of what's packed inside a pomegranate seed, do you think it would be sold in a regular grocery store or locked behind a premium supplement price tag? Because inside every pomegranate are hundreds of small seeds called arils, and those seeds contain a genuinely rare fat called punicic acid. It belongs to a small, unusual family of fatty acids, sometimes referred to as Omega-3, and early research suggests it carries strong antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that are actually distinct from the more familiar omega-3s we've talked about throughout this whole list. And the seed oil isn't even the main event. The juice and flesh surrounding those seeds are loaded with polyphenol antioxidants at levels that rival, and in some comparisons exceed, green tea and red wine. Multiple studies looking at pomegranate consumption and cardiovascular markers have found improvements in blood pressure and a reduction in the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, a process directly involved in the buildup of plaque inside your arteries. There's also research pointing toward pomegranate compounds supporting joint health, which lines up neatly with traditional folk use of pomegranate for inflammation across several ancient cultures, long before anyone had a word for antioxidant. Eating a fresh one does take a little effort, since separating the seeds from the bitter white membrane can get messy. Here's the trick. Cut the pomegranate in half, hold each half cut side down over a bowl of water, and tap the back firmly with a spoon. The seeds drop into the water. The bitter membrane floats to the top, and cleanup is minimal. The seeds freeze beautifully too, so grabbing a couple when they're in season and freezing the arils in a bag means you can sprinkle them over salads or yogurt all year long. The only real caution here has nothing to do with the fruit itself. It's the added sugar hiding in some bottled pomegranate juice. So read the label before you buy. So there you have it. 8 foods, from the open water to the temple robes, all carrying exactly the kind of fat your body has been quietly asking for this whole time. Fish for the brain and heart. Lamb, fat and butter, for balance, done right. Walnuts, flax and pistachios for a plant-powered omega-3 boost. Goat's milk for the folks who thought dairy just wasn't for them. And pomegranate seeds, because apparently even ancient priests knew beauty and nutrition could show up in the exact same fruit. Here's my real question for you, and I actually want an answer. If you had to pick just one of these 8 to start with tonight, which one would it be? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious whether the fish crowd or the pistachio crowd wins this round. If this actually changed how you think about fat, even a little, do me a favor and hit subscribe. There's a lot more of these ancient food breakdowns coming, and digging through old texts for genuinely useful health information turns out to be way more fun than it sounds on paper. And if you made it all the way to the end of this one, seriously, thank you. That's not nothing. and I don't take it for granted. One last note before you go. I'm not a doctor, and nothing here replaces real medical advice. If you're managing a health condition or taking medication, talk to your own doctor before making any big changes to your diet. See you in the next one.